Hey crafters, this is Paulette. Well, I've been thinking about doing a video for some time now where to pull inspiration from to color some of these fabulous stamp sets that we all have. I've been collecting some of these and, some of them don't need a lot of coloring. These things that have lots of detail in the stamped image, you can just stamp them in your Stampin' Up! Dye-based inks and just move the ink around with an aqua painter or your blender pen. Some things are more open and they need a little bit of coloring and maybe highlights and shading. You may have, furniture, fruit, animals. So we all have this dilemma. I think those of us that are not naturally artistic, we might all be creative, but we're not all naturally artistic. So my niece gave me a book which kind of inspired this video. So some stamps that you get already have the artist's artwork. They've already colored them in for you. And those are very easy to follow, as you can see here. When I get a new stamp, I just sit down and I stamp it a whole bunch of times, and then I just start coloring. Now, I never finished these mice. Their bodies are still blank. And that was when our baby had acid reflux, and she wouldn't let me get through. She couldn't lay down. So I need to go back and clean those up and finish them. I did this just as an example to see if I could color the image without having to fill the whole thing in. I'm really funny. I feel like I have to fill all that white space in. And this was really easy to do with my Crayola washable markers. I have several fun ways that I enjoy coloring. I've just kind of been evolving the ways I color. I started out with my Stampin' Up! Re-inkers, which are just the inks in the little bottles, and used them in an artist tray with my aqua painter and colored that way. I have evolved to my Crayola washable markers. If you have Stampin' Up's Stampin' Right markers, if you have Tim Holtz Distress markers, you can use them all the same way. Some markers are a little more intense, so you can scribble them out onto an acrylic block and pick the color up that way. I like to do that, and I will just tape a piece of white behind there so I can see the colors. And this one I just scribbled on here with my Crayola washable markers and then just diluted the whole thing. And I think it turned out lovely. So I'm going to work a little bit more personally on doing that. Quick is better for me. Some stamps that you get don't have any color, and maybe you don't know what color they're supposed to be. So I'm going to hold this one aside. I'm also going to hold this new Simply Sketched aside because my bird book is going to help me with this little rounded bird and this owl. So we'll just put those over here. Well, I'm a saver, and sometimes it's really bad. I guess sometimes it's good, but I feel plagued by it many times. So I have all of these different things that I use for inspiration. Some are advertisements that you get in the mail. This was a Bass Pro Shop advertisement, but look at these fish. I have some fish dies and some fish stamps, and I have some fishers in my family, so I will keep that. Look at this. They say that if you just hint at some of the things, like when you're watercoloring, you do not have to color in every brick or every, facial detail. The brain goes ahead and completes it if it's not complete. I guess that's where my creative block is that I feel like I have to fill everything in, and it slows me down. Well, here is a perfect example. This was in a frame that my daughter bought, and it was here on my work counter when I was cleaning things up, and I said, oh my gosh, look, it's 2 men and 2 women, and they are just very simply watercolored. I mean, there's not really, you can tell this lady has a ponytail, and you can tell this lady has a hat, And maybe this lady has sunglasses on, but they're just, you know, I think it's awesome. So, what else? I save like fishing magazines, hunting, like Cabela's has a lot of animals in it, and I can't put my finger on my Cabela's magazine right now. I've got it tucked away somewhere. But this is the cover of a catalog, a machinery catalog. But look at this fabulous bear. And so I will trim this down. I've got another one right here that I have trimmed down. But not only is this bear in here, there's lots of background and a little bit of scenery and water. So, you know, not only will you get inspiration for coloring an animal, but you might get, you know, placement of some scenery type things. And I have just put this in a page protector. I have lots of these little things. I keep snippets out of the Joann's paper advertisement that I get in the mail, you know, every few months. And so that's a good place for inspiration. Calendars are another great source of inspiration. Just like we had those trucks, the cars, the tractor. Here are some ideas for color combinations. I never once thought about doing this truck in a two-tone. So I think that's a really good inspiration for that. Even some of the insects and florals, your calendars will give you some inspiration for that. Where the shadows are, where the highlights are. And I've got a couple of butterfly stamps, and one of them does have color on it. It's very minimal, but this kind of, you know, shows you where the little sheen is and the different color is. Even calendars that have stuff like this. You know, when I was doing birthday cards for the people at my husband's work, I was doing like 200 birthday cards a year. And the majority of those folks were men, and so I had to dig deep. I usually try to find out a little bit about each person and kind of cater the card towards their likes or their hobbies or their job even. So some of these things, just like layout, you know, there are some stamp sets that have lighthouses and some of these things, and so you can draw inspiration from all kinds of different places, whatever you have. This happened to be a calendar that was all cars, and I used some of the race cars as inspiration as well when I was making the car cards for the men at my husband's work. You know, still that thing where your brain fills it in. You know, you just have to add a little bit of the color and a little hint of the graphics, and the brain fills the rest of it in. You know, one of my best cards was a NASCAR car, and I used that little race car in that Stampin' Up set that I showed a while ago, and just stamped them and cut them out and, you know, accessorized them and put numbers on the sides of them, and it was just really fun. So, you know, there's all kinds of places. You can even use your own artwork, for instance. Here's a very sad. This is a EK Success Martha Stewart stamp set, and I never use it because I don't know how to color these birds. And that's kind of going to lead us to this book that started this whole video. So this is very sad, but I don't throw anything away. I keep it in my little storage here where I've colored all kind of things and saved them. Things that I'm not really thrilled with, but I don't throw anything away. So everything gets cut down and put in this little drawer. And then when I'm in a pinch, I can come and pull out something. I need to finish those mice. Got to get some color on them. So anyway, here's one that I thought turned out really nice. I really liked this whole thing, and so I just saved one. I made several, and I saved one. When you're watercoloring, it's easier to color just in succession, because by the time you get to the last one and come back to the first one, then this area is dry and you can lay down color on the next area and it won't run. That's the key for watercolor, is to let each area dry, then the other area does not run into it. So that's cool. And then here's one. This is a beautiful Inka Dinka Doo stamp. And I used the Cabela's catalog to color this turkey. You know, they have this blue on their head, and gosh, I've got something else on there. But this was when I was coloring with my Stampin' Up! Re-inkers, and I think it just turned out fine. I did this one year. These were my Father's Day cards one year. And this is the last one. I've been kind of hoarding and holding on to this one. Actually, I have colored another turkey on my most recent calendar that's pretty good, so I could let this card go now. So let's get down to this book that I've been mentioning. Children's books are also an excellent source for coloring some of your colored images. Now, my niece brought me this book at Thanksgiving, and it has just tons of birds. I mean, there's a lot of, you know, just page information, but the front here is all pictures. Here is a little $1 stamp that is this pelican that I just kind of fake when I color. I always color him just kind of white and gray and leave some blank areas. I didn't even know they have this black on their wings. So now I can color that a little more accurately. Here is that sad little stamp set that this cardinal is from. And after looking through this book, I've gone through here and kind of identified all of these birds. So what happened was I noticed this bird's tail, and I'm like, wait a minute, I have that bird. So right here he is. And then there's some other, this little bird, by the time I looked him up, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, actually 5. I did not put down the woodpecker that he could be. But he could be all these things: a northern flicker, a warbler, an American brown creeper, and a wren. And so I have put down what page those are on so I can go back and look them up. Depending on how his plumage is colored and his tail and his head, he can be a different bird. And then here is a black-capped chickadee, I believe. I've never used this one because I have no idea how to color it. So now I can go to the book and figure out how to color this. And it looks like I've already taken out my Stampendous. I have a beautiful Stampendous Jumbo Cardinals, and I've taken that out. Oh, there's some of those woodpeckers. Here is this little owl right here. Can you see him? Can you see him on these pages? He's right here. There's these little, these are actually ears. It says long-eared owl is what it's called. And so now I can look in here. He has kind of gold here and gold around here and in those ears. So now I kind of have an idea how to color and use him. And then all of those little kind of round-bodied birds, I think probably this one is a bluebird, but any of these, I could just change the color on them and make them whatever species I want to make them. Oh, there's those beautiful cardinals. So now I know how to color my cardinals. I'm never sure how to do the hen. I always do her in like a kind of a red wash and then a gray wash where I think she needs to be darker, and she has no gray. She's red and kind of gold. So anyway, just really fun. I am so thrilled to have that. Well, I guess, as usual, if you have any questions, be sure and let me know. I've got some other things coming up. I've got some more Stampin' Up! Products coming up. And then we also have March's name tags. Thanks for looking.